So, season 8, episode 4. It's taking a lot of shit that I don't really think it deserves. And the structure could have been better, but the overall plot and the way that they've set up episode 5 has turned out really well. So, the episode starts with them burning the bodies, and then they sort of celebrate, and there's a feast scene. This is a point where there's a lot of really small character moments and small conversations sort of in the background. There's three major points in this scene. Firstly, Gendry becomes Gendry Baratheon, is named Lord of Storm's End. Secondly, is when the Jaime and Brienne plotline sort of comes full circle and they have sex and their sort of love story is complete. Then much later in the episode, he actually does go down south to join Cersei, supposedly, although I think this might be a cover and he might end up killing her when she won't agree to surrender. And the last important scene is when Daenerys notices that Jon is getting all of the kind of praise and glory with a group of people around him in admiration, and she's sort of being forgotten. Because we're already on 4 out of 6 episodes done, they're moving the plot along very quickly. So within about 10 minutes, they've gone down to Dragonstone. Supposedly, half the Dothraki and Unsullied are left. The Northmen are marching down to King's Landing, and we see that in the next episode trailer that they arrive for the big battle. So even though Rhaegal survives the Battle of Winterfell, he actually dies in this episode in a surprise attack when Daenerys' fleet reaches Dragonstone. So as I said, Euron launches a surprise attack, and he actually kills Rhaegal, so Dany only has one dragon left, which is of course Drogon, which is the one that she rides. Missandei is captured, and in this sort of tense last scene, we see that she's killed by the mountain, and this sort of sets up Daenerys wanting to get revenge in the next episode because the conflict is now much more personal between her and Cersei. Earlier, Bronn comes to Jaime and Tyrion, and he forces Tyrion to promise him Highgarden because Cersei promised him Riverrun, but he's still betting on Daenerys. And to be honest, the character Bronn just seemed like a massive dick for this whole scene, and that's sort of how he's being this season. Which is a shame, really, because in the last few seasons, when we got to see more of him, and the last major plot point in this episode, which is continuing for the end of the season and the end of the show, really, is that Daenerys is sort of losing it as she's losing friends. She lost Jorah, she lost Missandei now. She lost a pretty big chunk of her army, she lost 2 dragons. She's sort of becoming more ruthless in her ambition to take the Iron Throne. And because Jon's secret is now known by 8 people, I think Tyrion said in the end of the episode, since Jon told his sisters and Sansa told Tyrion, I think intentionally, it seems intentionally, to undermine Daenerys and potentially get Jon on the Iron Throne, even though he doesn't want it. There are a few other smaller details of note, such as the King's Landing walls now have loads of ballista scorpions on them, the same ones that were on Qyburne's ship which killed Rhaegal. So Drogon is going to be quite limited in how we can see him in episode 5. The Wildling plotline is sort of wrapped up, and since the White Walkers are all dead, they head back home north of the Wall, and Tormund is leading them there with Ghost. It seems that Sam is going to Horn Hill to take over as the new lord since his father and brother were burned alive. Overall, like I said, even if it is taking a lot of shit and the structure could have been much better, there were definitely parts of the episode that sort of felt like they dragged on sort of in the beginning. But I also think that it set up episode 5 really well, and that's going to be quite an epic battle. In particular, since they hired the same director as episode 3 and Hardhome. So overall, certainly not the best episode that they've come out with, but it is much better than a lot of people are saying. And not enough attention is given on the fact that this is a setup episode, and people are expecting, I think, too much of this episode to stand up on its own.